Good evening. I'm grateful to Dr. Pragnesh Bhatt for this wonderful opportunity to be able to interact with you. I have chosen to speak on the Upanishads, primarily because heritage, education, and fellowship, which are the founding pillars of your society, are very well brought out, as you will see in this talk titled A Glimpse into the World of the Upanishads. One of the great Upanishadic teachers, Osho Rajneesh, had this to say about the Upanishads. We are entering today into the most enchanting and mysterious world of the Upanishads. This is the highest as far as spiritual quest is concerned. Never before and never after has human consciousness attained to such Himalayan heights. The days of the Upanishads are truly golden. The Upanishads come from the end portion of the Vedas, and it has been estimated to be at least 2,000 to 4,000 years before Christ, which means we are talking about work done some 6,000 years ago before any form of written script was available. The Upanishads are in Sanskrit, which is the oldest language in the world. For many centuries, there was no written script, and therefore, this was an oral tradition transmitted from father to son. And the Upanishadic verses are poetic, they have a musical tune, and therefore it is easy to remember. And that is how for centuries it was just an oral tradition until the script was evolved. And in some ancient universities you have the old manuscripts where the Upanishads, where the early forms of the manuscripts are available. This is an extremely rare knowledge. Even in this country, very few people are aware of the Upanishad. They would have heard about the Upanishad, but they do not know much more than the name Upanishad. One of the reasons is it's extremely difficult to find a student who is interested in the Upanishads. To find a good teacher is extremely rare, but more important is the subject. Now, if I have to teach somebody about the heart or the brain, it is something objective. It is something that you can see, and therefore it is easy to demonstrate and teach. But here, the subject is not any object. It is about our essential subjectivity, and therefore it requires a different kind of skill to be able to teach and a different kind of mental training to be able to understand what we are speaking about. The word Upanishad can be broken into three parts: Upa, Ni, and Shad. Upa means going to a teacher or a guru. Ni means to sit down. And Shad means a form of destruction of any form of limitations, bondage, or ignorance. The Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan built the Taj Mahal. His oldest son, Dara Shikoh, was fascinated by the Upanishads. He is said to have translated about 50 Upanishads into Persian, and that is how the Western world got to know about the Upanishads. This painting must be familiar to many of you. This represents the big four, the founding fathers of the Johns Hopkins, the pathologist William Welch, the surgeon William Halsted, the famous physician William Osler, and the gynecologist Howard Kelly. Among their contributions was popularizing the residency scheme, which is practiced all over the world today. As these were big names, we had very eminent we had many doctors who were looking for an opportunity to work with them and to learn skills from them. And therefore, the hospital was able to have a large number of doctors working round the clock for a very small fee or no fee. And that is how the residency scheme came into being. The Upanishads are a unique form of education, which is the forerunner of the residency program, because in ancient India, when children are about 8 or 9 years of age, they are sent from home to to stay with the teacher, and this is the Gurukula system of education. And for the next 10 to 12 years, they would serve the teacher, the teacher's family, and in the course, they would get skills not only of various subjects in education, but also various life skills. Once the child is around, once a person is aged around 20 or 22, they come back home and they are encouraged to get married, pursue a business which is usually the family business. And it is said that once a person reaches the age around 55, it is recommended again that they leave their homes and come back to the Gurukula system. And this is where the Upanishads were founded. Even today in many Indian universities, whenever there is a graduation process, these verses from the Taittiriya Upanishad, where the teacher gives a formal message to the students at the time of their graduation. And some of the important parts of the message are: always speak the truth, perform your daily duties sincerely, earn and create wealth, raise your family and children, always work for the prosperity of the society, do not neglect continuous education, and do not neglect your prayers to God. Now, in any Indian family, these verses are very familiar, like Matra Devo Bhava, treat your mother like God, Pitra Devo Bhava, treat your father as God, Acharya Devo Bhava, treat your teacher as God. And this is very difficult to believe. Atithi Devo Bhava. In Sanskrit, the word Tithi means time. Atithi means one who has come without a prior appointment. In those days, we did not have hotels and places to stay. And if a person comes to you unannounced, such a person has to be treated reverentially. You have to make place for him at home. You have to provide him food. And these are the sort of messages given to a graduating student. And the teachers emphasize, this is the command, this is the teaching, this is the doctrine of the Vedas, this is the instruction. And the teachers try to consolidate their teaching as the students graduate. Once a person comes to a level of retirement, they are encouraged to come back to a postgraduate level. So there is a system of undergraduation, then the life and work life is a form of a graduation, and at post-graduation they come back to the Upanishadic teachers, and once they have been through life and they have certain relevant questions. So many of the Upanishads are fascinating discussions where the student asks very pertinent questions, and the entire Upanishad is an answer to these questions. We are currently studying this Upanishad called the Mundaka Upanishad. We are studying verse by verse, and each of these Sanskrit verses are explained in English, and it is available on YouTube. And here is a student who comes to the teacher and asks the question, "My Lord," and that is how the teacher is very respectfully addressed to, "What is that knowing which everything worth knowing is known?" And the entire Upanishad, which consists of about 65 verses, addresses this particular topic. What is that topic, or what is that knowledge which is worth knowing? There is another very fascinating Upanishad called the Kena Upanishad, and all medical doctors would be interested in this Upanishad, because here is a student who comes to the teacher and says, "My Lord, I'm able to see, I can hear, I can feel, I can speak. What is that force that makes my mind work? What is that principle that enlivens me?" Essentially, the student wants to know, what is this which makes us conscious? What is this principle of consciousness? And all of the Upanishads address this aspect about consciousness. In another Upanishad called the Chandogya Upanishad, here is a very brilliant student called Narada. And Narada is well accomplished in all aspects of knowledge. And he comes to the teacher Sanat Kumara and says, "Despite my vast knowledge, I have come to feel that the more I know, how little I know. There is so much more to know. And more importantly, I don't feel fulfilled. There is a sense of incompleteness. There is a sense of sadness. And the teacher tries to address him and give him a knowledge called Bhuma Vidya. Bhuma Vidya means to be able to understand that you, as you are limitless. You are infinite. You need to discover that infinite entity in you. Essentially, the Upanishads, through a process of inquiry, and which is absolutely logical and which is based on one's own experience, addresses these facts. Who is this entity? Am I this body? Am I this mind? Or someone who's using this body and mind? I see this world around me. What is this world around me? If this body is there, if I am there and there are so many people around me, somebody must have created all this. Is there a God? I see so much suffering around me. What is the meaning of suffering? Is there a way out of suffering? Can you give me certain exercises or certain techniques to get over the suffering that I see in the world around me? There are more than 100 Upanishads. In fact, there were thousands of Upanishads. Today, only about 100 of them are available. And the question is, how many of them we need to study? A great mystic saint, Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi, was once asked this question. How many Upanishads should we study? And his reply was, to see yourself, how many mirrors do you need? I just need one mirror will do. One Upanishad studied properly is enough to get to know our true nature. The Upanishads address what is our true nature. Although there are many Upanishads, it is recommended that we study 4 or 5 of these principal Upanishads, and thereby all of them will address different aspects of the same problem of who am I through different angles. Now, very quickly, if I should address what is the essence of the Upanishads, what is the real value that the Upanishads tend to give to us, what is that all of us want all the time? And one thing is very clear, all of us want to be happy. About this, we are really clear. How I want my happiness may differ from one another, but one thing is common to all of us, that we want to be happy. The Upanishads help to explore those moments in our lives when I'm not in touch with any object, I'm not in contact with any person who gives me happiness, there is no situation, and yet I experience a kind of joy, a kind of peace that knows no limits. As doctors, sometimes when you go around your hospital and you see, even this morning, when I go to the ICU, I saw a patient who was operated, but he was fast asleep. And I spent a lot of time watching him. He has kidney failure. He's undergoing dialysis. He has got a lot of medical issues. His family outside are really concerned about his health. But here is a person deeply asleep. And as he is sleeping and as he is snoring also, there is an amount of peace, even though there are so many problems. So that means when a person is asleep, your mind is also asleep. And when your mind is asleep, you do not have any problems. You have no sense of limitations. The moment you wake up, you become aware of your body, you become aware of your mind, you become aware of all your problems, and all forms of limitations occur. The Upanishads try to teach you that even when you are awake, even when your mind is able to experience various forms of maybe financial limitations, health limitations, various material limitations, I may not have so many things in life, but yet I am full and complete, and I have enough reasons to celebrate life. Modern day teachers tell us that the very search for happiness is what prevents us from experiencing happiness. And therefore, some of the most simplest techniques given to us in the nursery rhymes are so meaningful when we are searching for happiness. And the teachers tell us the time to be happy is now. If I'm not happy now, if I'm not fulfilled now, how can I be happy at some other time? The place to be happy is here. Here and now is I need to be able to discover happiness. The way to be happy, The teachers are very clear about this. There is no way to be happy. Any technique takes you away. It is, you just have to be happy. Experience this moment. Experience the silence in this moment. The pregnant opportunities that are there in this moment. You know, every time we go away from this moment, if I'm thinking of what schedules I have to do next, my mind is preoccupied. If something has disturbed me in the past, and if I go back to it, I can ruin my present moment by dwelling into the future or going back into the past. And that's what exactly the mind does. So the teachers now give us, based on the essence of all the Upanishads, that we are already that which we can possibly be. We are that. And if you are already that, there's no need to prove anything to anybody. You will see all our struggle is the function of the ego trying to prove something to somebody. Present day teachers, based on the Upanishads, tell us very clearly, there is nothing to do, there is nowhere to go, there is nothing to gain, there's nothing to lose. But all of us have clearly defined roles to play. Take it as a role. As Shakespeare said, life is a stage and all of us are actors on the stage. All of us have clearly defined roles. And our job is to play our roles how 100%, as the role demands. And therefore, when you are an actor in the stage, and if you have to cry on the stage, you have the skill to make people cry by your emotions. But is there any grief? Is there any sorrow in you? And that is how you need to be able to play your life. If you look at the world around, you will see persons and situations which we cannot change. And the more you understand that people will continue to be the way they are, the situation in the world will continue to be as it is, and all my efforts to change is only creating more misery. I need to be able to gratefully accept as it is, and therefore come to a state of life where there is no complaints or zero complaints. The Upanishads also sometimes introduce various forms of stories, and through stories you get a certain insight into yourself which may be difficult to give without a story. This is a story of a great master who had two students. He had to choose between the two of them who is going to be his successor. He gives each of them one envelope, and the brief is, you have 24 hours time, and I want you to destroy this envelope in 24 hours, but one thing. I want you to destroy it in a place where there is nobody. So the first person goes to his room, ensures there's no one around, darkens the place, lights a lamp, destroys the envelope. The second person brings the envelope back to the teacher after 24 hours and tells the teacher, you had told me to destroy it in a place where there is nobody. I had a problem. Wherever I went, I was there. Who is this I who goes with you wherever you go? And that is where the Upanishads try to inquire, who is this I who goes with you? Look at your own photograph when you were a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old child. As you look at that photograph, you will see over a period of time how much your body has changed, how much your mind has changed, your thoughts have changed, your knowledge has changed. But have you changed? Think. There is something in me that never changes. There is something in me that is changing all the time. The Upanishads say, don't give importance to that which is constantly changing. Focus on that which never changes. A direct question to each one of you is, do you ever feel you're getting old? We always see other people getting old. We don't feel, I'm getting old. The reason is we tend to anchor on to some aspect or someone within us who never gets old, who never undergoes any change. And who is that? This happened to one of my classmates who shared her experiences. She had to travel to another city, And the moment she reached the new place, she experienced such severe toothache that she requested that I see a dental surgeon as quickly as possible. They approached a nearby dental clinic. At that time, the doctor was not there, and she looked around and saw the name board, and it read Dr. Alan Rodrigues. And a thought occurred into her mind, can this be Alan, my classmate in school? And you know how the human mind works. A flashback to that tall, handsome boy she secretly loved. And as she was thinking of Alan in those school days, in comes the doctor, but somebody else, middle-aged, pot-bellied, grey-haired, balding. And she dismisses this cannot be the same person. But as he began speaking, his mannerism was so characteristic, so typical. She was very clear this is an older frame of the same person. And as she was getting ready to go, she said, Dr. Allen, were you in this particular school? He says, yes. Were you there between this year and that year? Yes, confirmed. Now she flashes a big smile and says, can you recognize me? He looks at her and says, forgive me, madam, I forget what you were teaching me. This is it. We never feel we are getting old. Think. We understand there is someone in me who never gets old. It is my body, it is my mind that undergoes change. So in conclusion, I would like to say some of the message that the Upanishads want to us is, this picture is a very common picture where you see in many Indian homes. And this sort of summarizes how to run our life. It is said that our body can be compared to a chariot. Now, if you have to have a long journey, your body should be fit, and therefore the fitness of the body is very important. The horses in this chariot example represent our sense organs, and we are driven by our sense organs in different directions. The reins that control these horses represent the mind, and therefore it is important that we have a mind that is able to control my sense organs. And who is the controller? Who is that person that you're going to put on the driver's seat? Whenever I have a decision to make, you will see there will be two people in you. One is a person who wants to create a shortcut and a short-term gain. There is another person. There is always a higher principle within all of us. And the Upanishadic teacher teaches us that if you can put that higher principle as in the driving seat of your life, your life's journey is going to be a comfortable journey. It is going to be a successful journey. The Upanishads work out in various ways, because once a person understands one's true nature, that you are whole and complete, such a person, when you interact with the world around, when you come across various upsetting situations, you will see, even though the situations are very upsetting, you have a cushioning mechanism where you don't get so upset. The Upanishads emphasize very much about the need to be able to control one's mind, to be able to control one's emotions. And this is possible by a more complete understanding of your true nature, that you are whole and complete. And yet a person with such an understanding, when you interact with people and situations, it is possible that we do get upset. And our teachers have given us a personal inventory called the FIR, which will tell us to see how frequently you get upset. F stands for frequency. So we need to keep a personal inventory to say that after the study of the Upanishad, has it made a difference to the frequency with which you get upset? I stands for intensity, and intensity is classified into 3 levels. I may be upset in level 1, which is mental, but I'm able to mask it. Level 2 is when the intensity becomes more and it comes to the level of the speech. And whenever somebody is upset, you will see the person never speaks softly. There will be an increase in the volume. There will be increase in the tone of the person speaks, and it is easy to make out that somebody is upset. That is level 2. Level 3 is like you can see on this picture, where a person is absolutely agitated. It comes to the level of the body. And what is R? our stance with more of this spiritual understanding, a person is able to recover. Ultimately, our teachers say, if a person has understood the Upanishad and it's become a part of one's life, whenever you come across some upsetting situations, your first reaction may be what? And very soon you will come to a state to say, so what? I will be able to handle it. The great Swamiji, Swami Vivekananda, had given a very famous clarion call, awake, arise, stop not until your goal is won. And all these phrases have come from the Upanishads, and this is from the Kathopanishad. As I said, the Upanishads deal with all the three areas that your society gives a lot of importance to. Heritage, and I'm convinced that this is a great treasure that has come from ancient India. It has come through a form of an educational system, which is the forerunner of the present residency scheme, that is the Gurukula system. And very importantly, the Upanishads try to tell us that the people around you are not different from you. And the message is very similar to what Jesus said, love thy neighbor as thyself. The Upanishads want you to discover that the other person and people around you are not very different from you. Once the great master Bhagwan Ramana was asked how to treat others. And his quick reply was, there are no others. For a person who has understood his true nature, everyone is an extension of himself. Ultimately, the Upanishads should promote universal fellowship and universal peace by an understanding that we are all one. So in conclusion, I would like to say that this school tries to tell us, know yourself. And once you know who you are so whole and complete, you could celebrate life. Thank you very much.